Okay. I haven't gone live since our first live show. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. When was that? Was that back in like
How long ago? Was it like a month or two ago? I don't know.
I don't know. Where are my lives, my old videos? That was in October.
Oh my gosh.
That's how I don't go live like ever. Bree, you're special.
Thanks. I'll take it.
Okay, so for everyone watching this back, hello. This is our live show for Glitterland by Alexis Hall, our third pick for the Chronically Courageous Book Club. And so this is our third pick. So if you want to watch our other two videos, one's on Bree's channel and one's on mine as well. So, and all of Bree's information is down below, so you can go check her out. Hello. Hopefully some more people will join us. But we're just going to be discussing this book. This was my first Alexis Hall.
Was it really?
Yes, so it's very different to Bree because she's like an Alexis Hall connoisseur. So, it was very interesting. So I'm interested to talk about it because I don't have a rating for this book right now. Like I don't.
Oh, you don't? Oh, interesting.
Not. So this live show, at the end of it, I think I'll give my rating.
Okay.
But let me post on Instagram really fast.
I will too.
Do that.
This is a very interesting place to start with Alexis Hall.
Well, I was reading the foreword in the physical version, and it said that this is his first published book. So I was like,
he had written other books before, but I think it was his first, like the one to get picked up.
Yeah. That's what he said, like the first, like, published one. Let's see here.
Sorry, we're both
boring right now. Go join us.
Yeah, so I actually listened to the audiobook, and then actually just today I got the physical book in. So for those who don't know, this was a re-release, and he made some changes to this, and there's an extra epilogue, there's an extra little blurb that's from
I didn't read that.
Yeah, there's an extra blurb that's like a chapter from because the hero, one of the main characters in the story, is the author, and it's like a chapter from the author's story that's in it. And then there's also like annotations that he has in the back, and then a foreword too that's different. And then there's like other little things that are different in this book than the original, because the original was, I think, written 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's what I kind of noticed with the audiobook a little bit. I was like, this is a little bit like maybe not of our time in some instances. Like I don't see many people nowadays having that orange spray tan anymore.
Yeah. I hope not.
No.
But I know like with that type of thing with Alexis Hall, he tends to be like, I feel like it was almost written kind of like in sarcasm. Like he's got a very distinct sense of humor. So I think it was kind of exaggerated a little bit.
Okay, I'm seeing all the extra stuff.
Yeah, in the book there's little stars in like where
yes,
he has
I really like that. I thought the stars were so cool.
Yeah, and then in the back, like the stars align with like his notes on it. So I thought that was really cute.
Where's that?
Yeah, that's what they're there for. In the very back.
I just needed you to walk me through
author annotations.
I needed you to walk me through the book beforehand.
Yes, and I love, of course, that Alexis always has his content guidance, and it's also on the website. He always has the all of the triggers, because this can be, I can see this being a very, very triggering book because it covers very, very heavy topics.
Okay, so I have the banners. I had to remember how to do the banners because last time was my first time doing that too. Okay. We kind of did our introductions. Y'all probably know who we are, and Bree's information is in the description. If you don't know Bree, you should. Let's talk about our thoughts before reading. What were you thinking before this, Bree? You probably, like, I know you love Alexis Hall, so.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to read this no matter what, because I'm actually with Steph from Novelty Corner. Her and I are going through Alexis Hall's entire backlist, and we're rereading them together. And we actually did read this together. I said rereading, but a lot of Alexis Hall's backlist I'm reading for the first time, and this I definitely read for the first time. So because it's an author who I am very familiar with and I trust and I really like, I didn't know really anything going into it except for the content warnings, only because when we announced it, like, we mentioned the content warning. So that's the only reason I knew it. And I didn't know much about this book at all because I don't need to. Like, he's an auto read author for me. Yeah. And so the only other thing that I knew was that I was going to be listening to the audiobook, but I knew there were changes in the physical book and the ebook. So that was pretty much the extent of my knowledge of this.
Okay. I'm like noticing the cover now and like noticing the tint of orange now.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay, before going to this, I have never read an Alexis Hall before I read this. And I didn't know anything about it, honestly. I went in completely blind, except knowing the rep, which Bree told me was bipolar depression representation. That's all I knew. I didn't know. Literally, I didn't even read the back. That's why also when we met when we met Darian in the book, and he was like talking about this guy with like a spray tan and everything, I was like, is this our hero, or is he just like a random guy he's hooking up with for a second? I didn't even read the back of the book.
Yeah,
and
neither
so
did I.
I was like, okay, this is where we're going. Okay, I understand. But I didn't have any expectations and like didn't know anything. So I would still be interested to read more of Alexis Hall's books. So yeah. Okay, so star rating and review. I haven't decided on a rating yet.
Okay.
At all. I don't know. This was not my favorite thing in the world, I'm not gonna lie. I really liked the characters. I feel like, and I'm much more of a reader that's more character driven than plot driven, but I felt like the plot in this story was a little bit lackluster for me. Like, I felt like there wasn't like really a lot going on. Everything was very internal, like very internal. Which is nothing, like, it's not bad. It's just like I felt like I wanted just more in the plot, you know? And I felt like everything just happened too fast for my liking, kind of.
The romance-wise?
Yeah. But then again, no, because there was that, I don't want, we're talking about spoilers, by the way, just everyone, by the way.
Yeah, there will be spoilers.
Yes, but there was like that chunk of time where he waited so long too, like many months, to go tell him how he actually felt about him. I don't know, there's things I really liked about it. I really like these characters, and I really like seeing I'm horrible with names. Ash like grow as a person and like really come to kind of like accept his mental health, like things going on with his mental health. But I don't know, it's just like it didn't feel like a 5-star read for me. I don't know how to describe it, you know?
Understandable. And I was curious about people who don't know Alexis Hall going into it, what they would think about this book. I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. I think this has a lot of the elements that Alexis Hall is kind of known for. Like his characters, I feel like, are so, what I love about his characters, even like the side characters, is that they're not one dimensional. Like, they're not perfect, but they're also not horrible. Like even the characters that made me mad in this, like Niall. And at first I thought, because I didn't know anything about the book, so at first I thought Niall was going to be the hero. And I was like, oh no, I don't know if I can handle this guy, because from the very beginning he's kind of the worst. But he ends up not being. He's almost like an antagonist. But I was telling Steph when we were talking about this book, I appreciated that he was an antagonist who like, you understand why he is the way he is. Like, there's obviously like a lot of trauma there and everything. But I think overall, because of the heaviness of the book, I would only trust Alexis Hall to write this. Like, there are certain types of books, like, for example, Long Shot, I would only trust Kennedy Ryan to write that book. And then this book, and also another book in the series called Pansies, I would only trust Alexis Hall to write this, because I know that he takes such care when writing about mental health. And I know that his anxiety representation is really good because he wrote, like, there is anxiety rep in Paris Valancourt is about to crumble. And I remember reading that, and I just felt like, especially when he was explaining panic attacks, it's exactly like how my brain works. And in this book too, the hero Ash, Ash is meant to be a very like a hard to like character. Like, you're not supposed to absolutely love him. But he also is dealing with some really, really heavy stuff. I mean, he's bipolar and everything. He's kind of coming to terms with that. But he's also somewhat emotionless when he's not in a manic episode. So he can come off as very dry and uncaring. And what I loved about that when it came to the romance is that he's one of those heroes or love interests or main characters that doesn't realize he's falling in love. So when he does, it's kind of like taking him by surprise. And meanwhile, Darian is like his opposite. And Alexis Hall is really good at writing like romances where you kind of have opposites attract. So you have like, they're both hot messes, but in different ways.
Yeah.
And Darian very much is like very go with the flow and everything. And Ash is like falling, kicking and screaming kind of, and not even realizing that he's falling. He's like, what is this feeling that I'm feeling? And he's like thinking it's other things.
You know
And
who he reminds me of a little? He reminds me a little, this is weird, but he reminds me of like Bash from the Quarry Master.
Right, exactly. He does. He really does. Like, he's
Alien romance, if y'all don't know. Yeah.
He's a reluctant hero, like through and through. And I love reluctant heroes because some of my favorite books, like Bash, he's one of my favorite heroes also. But yeah, I love the side characters, like his friends, his best friend. Oh, what the girl's name? Allie? I forget her name. But just like little, and the humor too. Like, that was one thing that I always want to mention with Alexis Hall. He has like these are really heavy topics and he's dealing with really heavy things, but somehow he's able to weave in humor in it without being inappropriate. Like, it's a really good balance.
No, I thought it was super funny at moments, for
Yeah.
sure.
Like, he's one of the few authors where I will laugh out loud reading his books.
It was super
Especially
funny.
if you like the dry British humor that he throws in here.
Does it say in the book when it was originally published?
It said 10 years ago, so I'm guessing
2013. Yeah.
Okay.
2013. Yeah, no, I really liked reading about both of these characters. I kind of wish we got a Darian perspective, you know, like I kind of wished we got that. Because I kind of like prefer dual POV, but that's just me. I know everyone has their preference. So I wish we just like got into his head a little bit because I don't know, I felt like that would have added to the story more.
Being in Ash's head is not easy.
Yeah, no, there were many times through the book I was like, whoa. And like there were times where I wanted to put it down, but I was like, I left this book to the last minute. So I was like, I gotta push through. So
and I can see how that would affect your enjoyment of it, because I feel like this is the type of book that, because it's heavy, like sometimes you might need to put it down and like take a breather for a second. But I mean, like I said, like, he's good at interweaving humor into it. So it kind of gives you a breather a little bit, but it also is just, I mean, he talks a lot about like suicidal ideation and his past, and it's just, and his panic and his anxieties surrounding pretty much everything. Like, one of the things that was most relatable was him freaking out about going grocery shopping.
Yes.
And I was like, that's me.
That's how I am with, I'm better about the grocery store. The grocery store, I think I'm like desensitized. Oh my word.
So Avery had said earlier that her parents are going to come home and she's babysitting the dogs. And she's like, fair warning, the dogs are going to start barking when my parents come home. So that's probably what's happening now. I'm trying to remember what another one of the quotes were. When he was talking about having a panic attack, he said something like, my body felt too loud. And that's exactly how my body feels when I'm having a panic attack. So I felt like that was pretty on point. And I want to actually go through and kind of highlight certain things, especially when he talks about like the anxiety that he has in his panic attacks, because there were a lot of things that were really relatable in it. But yeah, I highly recommend, like, even if you listen to the audiobook, I do recommend getting the ebook or the physical book too, so you can see some of the annotations And like even in his author annotations, they're really funny too.
Okay, let me see. There was one quote that I highlighted. I will say that I left a tab for. I liked this one because this one said, "Depression simply is. It has no beginning and no end, no boundaries, and no world outside itself. It is the first, the last, the only, the alpha, and the omega."
So freaking true.
I felt like I couldn't speak on anything else besides the anxiety and depression, and I felt really seen with that. But I honestly don't know a lot about being like anything about someone who's bipolar. So I kind of want to like learn more about that. But like it's very interesting just reading about.
Yeah, I'd be curious if anyone I would like to read Own Voices reviews and see what they say about the representation, because I know for the things that I am familiar with that Alexis Hall has written that I personally know, like I know it's written with care and well done. So I would assume that's the same, but I definitely want to hear some Own Voices reviews to see what they think.
Well, I wonder if there are any in the 10 years since like
I would imagine. Yeah.
Now I want to go look.
I know, I want to go look too, but I was like avoiding looking at reviews so that I wouldn't like my review wouldn't be skewed.
That's a good idea. I'm gonna wait then. So you've read other books. Oh, to lead to the next question, I didn't even think about this, but you've read other books in this series though.
Yeah, so it's a standalone series because I'm not even quite sure how the series interconnects. I've only read 2 other books, For Real, which is my favorite book by Alexis Hall, and then Pansies, like I said, which is another heavy one because that's like kind of a coming out story kind of, and there's a bullying situation in it. Lots and lots of triggers for that one, especially for bullying. And homophobia is like raging in that one. But yeah, I'm not sure how they interconnect, aside from the fact that they're all just like contemporary romances.
Really? I thought maybe there'd be like side characters or something, but no.
There might be. There's always a lot of side characters in Alexis's books, so there could be overlap. It's just I'm terrible with character names, so I don't remember.
Well, I was curious if maybe like Niall had a book in the series.
Maybe there is like one of the epilogues in this is from Niall's point of view. It's a short story with him and Max. So in the beginning of the book when Ash calls Niall, it's what was happening with Niall and Max during like right before Ash calls.
And he's the one that was getting married.
Yes, Max is the one getting married, and then Niall is the one that's Ash's ex, who's kind of horrible and who outed his mental health.
Yeah. That whole scene.
That was so hard to read.
Side eye.
I know. Oh my gosh.
It was TikTok?
Yes.
The side eye TikTok.
It's exactly what it was. Freaking Niall was the worst. I was like, why? But it was great. That was one of the scenes that I appreciate. It had me appreciating Darian a lot because his reaction felt so genuine, because I think sometimes, especially in books where you have representation for something like this, sometimes the love interest will be super heroic in that moment and like, have a whole speech of why it's not okay to do it and everything. But I felt like Darian's response felt more real and something, because he didn't dismiss anything, and he didn't like make this big bold speech or anything to try and stand up for Ash, but at the same time he was very accepting of it, and I think it really showed how much he cared about Ash.
Yeah, I liked that too, because he was like, I don't remember word for word what he said, but he said something along the lines of like, everyone's got something, like like that's the way of the world, like I'm not gonna judge someone for having something. Like, you don't know what's going on with somebody. That doesn't make them any less than a person than anyone else. So I really did like Darian. That's why I really wanted a perspective from him, because I really did like him. I didn't expect to like a man that looks like a Cheeto, but you know what?
Wearing sparkles and like being
I
so
love the sparkles.
I know.
he's like showing that he's so unapologetically himself and he does not give a crap what other people think about him. And I love those kinds of people.
I would
do.
have liked being in Darian's head when he asked Ash to be a model, because you know that Ash kind of grumpily went along with it, but it also shows how much Ash liked Darian.
Yes.
Yeah, like just showing up to the fashion show, first of all, is a huge thing for Ash, as someone who's like me, who like will agree to do something, but then immediately like everyone expects you to back out because you're like, oh no, I don't actually do people-y things. But the fact that he actually shows up at the fashion show for him, and then not only that, but models for him too.
It was so good. It was so good. Okay, what's the next one? Oh, our likes. What's something you really liked, Bree?
So we kind of talked a little bit about this already, but pretty much everything that I liked about this book are all the things that I always love about Alexis's book. So it's their humor that is well placed within a heavier story. And then of course the side characters. I always love the relationships. Like when the girlfriend, who I can't remember her name, but when he calls her about trying to figure out a salad to make for the dinner, and she's like, am I the only person with a vagina and that you know, and that's why you called me? And she's like, you know, people without vaginas can make salads too. And he's like, I know, but
and then he comes
Max, who helps.
Yeah, he comes with all of the things to make a salad, and he's like, what is all of this? I just thought we got lettuce and tomatoes.
Right. He ends up making the bougiest salad because he's trying to impress him. Yes. That's another one of like the little things that he doesn't realize that he's falling for Darian, but it's clear that he is because he's doing little things like that. And that's another thing. It would have been cute being in Darian's head and seeing his like thought process and reaction when Ash does something like that.
Man, maybe he should have added just Darian chapters to the rewrite. That would have been so good. Then like the audiobook wouldn't really match.
So I feel like if you would like For Real, because there is a Darian type character in For Real and you're more in his head than you are in the other characters. So I think that you would like For Real.
That one's I've had that one on my TBR. Like I've seen a few of y'all read that one. So I'm gonna still read more of Alexis Hall. I do feel like though, like maybe it was also like the time and place when you read a book this heavy, I feel like you have to be in the right headspace for it. And these past couple of days have not been the best for me. I fell in the shower and my side is all bruised up and I'm not feeling the best. I like thought I was gonna have another flare up. So like it was not the best mental health time to read something this heavy. So I might do a reread later on down the line. Like whenever I read more of Alexis Hall's books, I might be like, oh, let's go back and read the first one and see if I like it more. So yeah, but overall, I loved just like, no matter how it was pretty heavy, but I do like reading about like different representations, you know? I really liked reading about Ash and his mind, because you and I were talking about like there's so many relatable moments in here, especially with like his anxiety and panic attacks and stuff. And then I love Darian more though, even though we didn't get his like perspective. Like I just again loved how unapologetically he was himself. And yeah, that's all I can remember. My brain, I have horrible brain fog. I'm trying to recollect. Do you have anything else that like stands out that you really like? Because I also like the humor, by the way. I wanted to say that too.
Yes, really the humor is probably my favorite part, along with the representation of anxiety and what an anxious brain is like to live with. I feel like and not just that, but you also see other people's reactions to it, especially people who don't understand, like Niall and stuff, and how there's almost like there's a babying aspect sometimes too, and then there's also like, oh my gosh, you're too much kind of response, and that's how Niall kind of is. So I appreciated seeing, like, you kind of get to see all of that. And Ash doesn't fully, I don't think Ash fully processes how other people are reacting to it, but I think he feels it. Like it has an effect on him, but he's not fully processing it, which I think is interesting because it's written in first person point of view. So it's cool how Alexis can make you see all those other things that even the the person who's seeing it doesn't quite like get. It doesn't process for them.
Yeah. So on top of that, dislikes. Did you dislike anything?
Not really. I mean, like I obviously didn't like, there's biphobia in the beginning of the book, but it went with the character. Like that's how Niall was, and
That's how they were written. Yeah.
exactly. And then also obviously I didn't like that Niall outed him and all of
Yeah.
that stuff, but I felt like it was in line with the character, and he was kind of the antagonist in it, so
Yeah.
it made sense.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to read about that kind of stuff though, because you want to be like, I don't like it, but you're like, but the author purposefully put it in there for a reason.
Yeah.
I personally didn't like how long it took for Ash to get up the nerve to go talk to Darian. I felt like it was too long. 6 months? 6 months? Personally, I think that was a little too long, but that's just me,
He actually addresses that in the annotations.
Oh, goodness.
But I mean, because he even mentions like it's a really long time, and normally, what did he say about it? I'm trying to find. Oh yeah, so he says, I tend to have ambivalent feelings about romances where the main characters are separated on page for extended periods, but sometimes it's necessary, and I felt it was necessary for Ash specifically, both to push the boundaries of his own world a little better to encompass the people who love him, and to come to terms with the trueness of his own feelings, love and loss for Darian, and vulnerability and selfishness, all independent of mental illness, which is understandable. 6 months is still a really long time.
Yeah.
And also, I do like that it was kind of like Darian mentions it. He's like, why didn't you come for me? He's like, I waited for you.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh. But yeah, I think I understand where Alexis Hall is coming from, but yeah, 6 months is a long time.
Yeah. And I just wish like, yeah, Ash like fudged up and said that stuff, which is awful. But like he explains it all, but I'm like, dude, just go run after him.
I know. And Ash is such like an oblivious character. Like it's so against everything that he's always been like the one night stand person, and this is all kind of new for him. So I get it, but also 6 months.
Yeah, that's a long time. I'd be like, Ash who? Ash
I know. And Darian kind of is like that. Like he pretends to be. He pretends to be over him, and like Ash kind of clocks that. But then like you see the crack in Darian when they're talking and stuff. But like during that time, I love that Ash got the tattoo.
Yeah.
Also, I was like, just show him the tattoo and he'll
I don't think did we get anything about that?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Think so. I don't remember that.
Yeah,
I wanted him to like there was even a point where like he's like touching his wrist or something, like reading that. I'm like, oh, he's gonna see. No.
Yeah.
Oh, missed opportunity.
I know. But it's almost like I kind of understood why he didn't want that to be the thing. Like I have a feeling it was purposefully written that way so that it wouldn't be the tattoo that changed the mind. Like, but I was hoping like later he would see it and be like, "Oh my gosh, you should have just showed me this in the first place."
That's so funny too, though, about a tattoo named Gary.
Yes.
Gary.
Well, the interaction with the tattoo artist too.
Yes.
Hilarious.
We've already mentioned kind of like this, but I really appreciated it, even though it was pretty heavy at moments. And I was honestly really worried that like I don't know why, but like I was reading some of the one like heavy moment, and I was like, is he gonna like do like a flashback scene of him actually doing this? Because I don't know if I can read that. Luckily, he did not.
No, not on-page graphic, no.
Yeah, but it was, I feel like, as graphic as you can get without being on-page graphic, if that makes sense. You know? So it was very heavy. So Bree texted me before because I was texting her like, about to start the book. She's like, check the trigger warning. I have like 2 major ones. And so I was like, okay, I think I'm fine if there's not these two. And I was like, oh, but I didn't realize how, like, I don't think I've read a book this heavy, when it comes to mental health in a very long time,
Mhm.
and it really puts like a little like dampener on you. Like it makes you
Mhm.
feel kind of like the same way at times. I'm a very big empath, and so I'm like
Yeah,
reading
if you're empathic.
yes, and so I'm reading about this dude and I'm like, ugh, ugh.
Mhm. Yep.
So I feel like that's how you're reading something accurately depicted as if you're able to feel those things also with the character.
Mhm. And I think it was heavy without being gratuitous, because I
Mhm.
think some books are like that just to make you feel miserable,
Yep.
but I think it wasn't gratuitous and there was enough of a little humor woven within to kind of, like, take you back a little bit every
Yes.
so often.
It felt very real, like that's
Mhm.
real life, you know?
Right. Exactly.
Um, but I don't know really anything about, as I said before, like the
Oh.
bipolar
Mhm.
rep, so I can't really speak on that.
Yeah.
So
I like I said, I do wanna look up some Own Voices reviews.
so yeah. Oh, if you have like I don't wanna out anyone, but if you wanna speak on the rep and you feel like you
Mhm.
have a say to speak on the rep, you
Yep.
can comment down below, of course.
Yeah.
Let us know what you
So
think
just
of it.
yes, I'm
Uh,
very curious.
character likes and dislikes. You wanna do for both characters? A like and a dislike for both of them?
Gosh. I think, like, as characters that's one thing that's so great about Alexis Hall's books is, like I said, none of them are perfect,
Mhm,
so there's things to dislike and like about both of them.
mhm.
I think Darian maybe was a little bit naive. I mean, here's the thing, like, I don't necessarily dislike any of them, like, I felt like it was necessary, like, I wouldn't take it away from him because that's what
Yeah,
made his character, but I
yeah.
also, I like how accepting he was and, how much he loved, like, unapologetically was
I
who he
love
was and also loved Ash unapologetically and
mhm,
wasn't afraid to show it, and also, like, put up with like, very patient with him too, because you
mhm.
had to be with someone like Ash. And then, of course, Ash Ash, I think, is a lot, but he's also very creative and has the potential and shows his potential to, like, show how much he can care about somebody and love somebody and have just as much loyalty as Darian does.
Mhm. I agree with all of that.
Mhm.
I feel like there are polar opposites in the fact that, like, I feel like Ash just keeps getting bogged down by the world, and it feels like the world's on his shoulders, and Darian's more of an innocent of, like,
Mhm.
like, they're kind of opposites in that way,
Yeah.
and I like how they both came together and saw, like, the beauty in the other person, and,
Mhm.
like, I loved how, like you said, like, patient and supportive Darian was, especially, like, there's that scene when he wakes up in the middle of the night totally over catastrophizing, which is something I was, like, listening to
Yeah.
this book, I was like, "I do this all the time at
Oh my
3
gosh,
AM."
if you read Paris Valancourt is about to crumble, Paris Valancourt, like, he is a catastrophizer to the
Mhm.
nth degree, and I related it like, it was almost over the top, but I was like, "Wait, it's totally understandable."
Yes.
Everything that he's worried about, I'm like, "I would be worried about too."
Yeah, no, I have that book, so I'm excited to read
Mhm.
that. So, I really liked both of these characters in their own different way because 'cause they're very different from each other.
Mhm.
Um, the things I think, like, you were talking about this, like, the things that you're not supposed to necessarily like about the character, you're not supposed to like
Right.
about them. So, it's not necessarily, like, something I want Alexis Hall to, like, change if he would. It's just, like,
Mhm.
I didn't necessarily obviously like Ash, like, saying those crappy things and not running after
Mhm.
the man, like,
Right.
running after the guy. So, like, but you're not supposed to like those,
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
yeah.
That's understandable.
Romance likes and dislikes. Um, I feel like we've already mentioned kind of like this.
Yeah.
Um, I think their first meeting was just, like, iconic to me.
It's so
Like,
I
across the bar, you just see this flaming orange man and is like, "Why am I attracted to you?"
Exactly.
Of all of the people.
He's like trying to deny it, but like to himself.
Yeah. Like of all of the people here, you. And
But
he's
then like
totally into it. He's like,
he notices it and then he climbs up.
yeah, he's like, I noticed you're checking me out. Come on, let's go.
And it's exactly what Ash needs too. He
Yeah.
needed someone to kind of break him out of his shell.
This is the perfect representation of like an opposites attract romance, 100%. I want to make a video about that. Darn, yeah.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I'm just staring at orange Darien on the cover. I didn't even notice that
I
until I read
didn't
this
notice
book.
that until you pointed it out, and now that's all I see.
Yeah.
Look
at this
how they're hugging too. Look how Ash is like leaning into him.
Oh, you know what would make this better though? I want his sparkly Ugg boots. I want his sparkly Ugg boots.
Why isn't he wearing it?
I know, it would have totally matched.
It would have.
And speaking of him leaning on Darien, I really like how he finally opened up to a person to a point where he's not scared. You know, like he's not, like he finally feels like there's that person that won't judge him.
Right. Well, think about who he was with before. Niall was so judgy of him. I was almost mad at him for his mental illness.
Yeah.
And like, you know, and you can almost see how it can be a lot for like Niall was dealing with his own stuff and had a lot of jealousy and had a lot of like stuff going on. So I get it, like for him as a character, but also it was so hard to read how he treated Ash.
Yeah. Hey, Maya.
Yeah, it's just us usually in the live shows, and then whoever can join in the chat.
Yeah.
We don't have the next book picked yet, do we?
No, but I think I know what I want it to be.
Do you?
Based on a book that comes out in April.
Oh, okay.
You can guess.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm like, should we do another one?
I know. I was like, do we do another one? And it's also like the 6th book in the series or something.
Yeah.
That's hard.
But it has celiac rep.
Oh, it does, doesn't it? And those can be read as standalones. It's fine.
Yeah. Or we could push it too, because I know like normally we do bi-monthly, but it comes out in April. So it'd be weird to say this is a March-April book if it comes out in April.
Right.
So maybe we pick that for our May-June book, maybe. I don't know. Bree and I will figure it
out. She's coming out with an audiobook right away too. That's the hardest part, is finding books that have audiobooks right away too.
Yeah. So we'll keep updated on our Instagram.
Yeah. Stay tuned. I know. He was but again, like if you get to see his point of view, and he's not likable in his point of view in this either, but you still it makes sense for his character, and he's not a one-dimensional antagonist. Like you see the full picture and the type of person that he is, and you get it, but you still hate him, as you should.
I found it interesting that all of these exes were friends with each other. Like I was like, is this normal?
Honestly, from what I know of the gay community and my gay friends and my my group of friends, like that it's pretty normal for like exes to have dated each other and to then like marry off certain people, and there's still attractions and there's drama and
maybe. I was gonna say maybe, but okay, Bree.
It is. I mean, we pretty much
we hinted at it. It's blatantly obvious, yes. But we're not saying for sure that's gonna be our next pick, but it's probably gonna be a next pick. So, we'll see. We need to talk.
I know.
This is what happens at every live show. People are like, "What's the next book?" And we're like,
No.
I don't know.
It's so hard, you guys. It's so hard to choose. It's so hard to find a book that falls into all the categories that we want them to.
Yes. And I feel like
it shouldn't be. I wish that wasn't the case, but
yeah. And Bree and I are both like, we're not like picky. I feel like, you know, like we are like, we just want to find a book that meets all these requirements. Like we have our list. We just want to find a book that meets all these things, and we're not picky about it. Like we'll read a new author.
I think the hardest part is the audiobook part.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I want it to be accessible to
Yeah.
people who need
There's
to.
so many good ones too, but they're YA. But Bree and I talked about
Yeah.
we don't want that to represent our romance book club. So Bree and I will read that like outside of the book club for sure
Mhm.
because they sound amazing, but we don't want that to specifically like represent our romance book club. So, but
Yeah, because
those.
we prefer open door mostly to
Mhm.
show, you know, people with disabilities, mental health issues can also have sex. Exactly. And
That
there's a lot of it in this.
I was not expecting that. We'll say.
Mhm. Yeah.
Mhm.
He writes some great sex scenes, and his like boyfriend material and his traditionally published books don't really have a lot of sex scenes at all. I think they're kind of closed door, but his
Indie.
indie published ones, yeah. Although this is traditionally published now, but yeah, I'm like, because I
Ooh.
read boyfriend material first, so then when I think I then read for real after that, and I was like, whoa. But he writes
Yeah,
great steamy scenes.
I have the two books that I have. I think are his other two traditionally published because I have the one with the cake on the cover,
Yeah, Parasol and Court
and then
Hill.
I have the Duke one. The
Oh,
the Duke.
Lady for a Duke. Oh my God, that one's
Mhm.
so good. You're gonna love. You should
Yes.
read that one next. You're gonna love that one.
Yes.
Yay, Heather.
Hello. Did y'all all read the book? I'm curious. Did y'all actually read the book, or y'all just pop it in to say hi and be nice?
It sounds like Brenda read it.
Yes.
Chronic fatigue, syndrome, POTS,
Mhm.
fibromyalgia, anxiety. This book has some good anxiety rep. Hairstyle and Court is
Yeah.
about to come out, has good anxiety rep, especially if you're a catastrophizer.
There's a book I just read that has good anxiety rep, but I felt like not good endo rep. So it's like I gave the book like 2.5 stars. But the
Mhm.
anxiety rep, I was like, oh my gosh, like specifically social anxiety. It's called
Mm.
Speechless. Like it was okay. I just didn't care
Mhm.
for it. In other aspects, the only thing the saving grace for me that gave that 2.5 stars was the anxiety rep because this man is like severely socially anxious, and I'm like, I feel you on so many
Oh.
but like every other part, I was like, darn it.
Mhm. I know it's frustrating.
But for fibromyalgia, you've probably already read it, but Chloe Brown has that
Yeah.
one. For POTS, the Talia Hibbert one, you've probably read that one too. And then if you want POTS rep that doesn't have the main character, Man in Charge by Laura Lynn Page, the heroine's best friend has POTS. And even just her best friend having POTS, so like the rep was so good. So good.
Mhm.
I don't know any with chronic fatigue syndrome though.
Yeah, I don't think I know any with that. I would like to read a book with that
Mhm.
too. That especially so that people understand it's not just that you're tired.
Yeah.
Like it's not just that you're a little tired. It's very, very different.
Mhm. Yep.
For anxiety, actually, Avery just posted about Hearts in Darkness on Instagram.
Oh yes.
That's great
I
anxiety.
blame you for getting me addicted to that. I
Oh my
want
God,
to
it's so good, right? Oh.
Yes, so good. Oh, fun. Hello.
Oh, you read that? Oh, I'm so glad that you liked it, Brenda. Isn't he great? Have you read any other Alexis Hall books? I'm very curious.
Let's see.
I am by agoraphobia rep. It's romantic suspense. So it's okay. I need to read more Jessica Gaziel. I think I've only read one book.
I'm like romantic suspense is a hard sell for me is my thing.
It's a hard sell for me too.
Yeah. We've talked about this. Yeah. That's why like we loved Catherine Cowles, but only because like the romance was bigger plot line and like
Right.
that's why I know in her new series people have said like the romantic suspense is even like higher, like
Oh, is
more.
it?
Yeah. Well, then also Zay told me she read the arc and she was like, she knows my triggers and she's like, just by the way, Bray, there's like a on-page shooting like right at the beginning. And so
Oh,
Catherine was like really sweet because I'm on her arc team. So I like messaged her. I was like, just by the way, this is my trigger. Is it okay if I like skip this one? And she was like, of course. Like she was so sweet.
I love her as a person too.
Yeah. I did not read that one, unfortunately, but I think I talked about that in the video I posted. I posted my romance book like no list, basically, like my romance book turnoffs, and that's one of them. I cannot do it.
I agree wholeheartedly. He really takes care, at least in the several books I've read that have some sort of mental health, especially anxiety. He writes it so well. Like he has to have it because we didn't have a conversation with him, and I'm not gonna like ask him, but he has to have some sort of anxiety or something because of the way he writes it, just the way he describes a panic attack. Like I was saying earlier, how he said his body sounded or like felt like it sounded too loud or something like that. Just the
Yeah.
little ways that he describes it, I'm like, that's exactly what it's like. It just feels like your body is being very loud when you're, but and you, what's so weird about panic attacks is that on the outside you can just be sitting there and looking completely normal, and on the
Mhm.
inside it's like absolute chaos. And he
Yep, it's like
writes
a
that really
tornado in your head. Yeah.
well. Yep,
Yep.
exactly.
Yep.
Mhm. Oh my
First one.
gosh, that's the
Me
first one. Oh, I hope
too.
you read
Twins. Twins.
Yay.
I love you. Thanks for
Oh, we
popping
love you.
in. I think I just broke this. Darn it. I need to stop fidgeting with this. I keep breaking my hair clips.
You need a fidget spinner. Some
I
strong
know. I
anxiety.
normally like at school I have like a lanyard on the whole day. So I just fidget. I
Mhm.
have stuff on there that I fidget with. But man, I normally have my
Mhm.
rings on that I fidget with. I can't. Um okay. Oh, sorry.
I bet that's therapeutic too if you have anxiety as well
Mm-hmm.
to like write it down. Because I have actually found like when I fairly recently, a few months ago, I I started to have a panic attack, and I was telling myself like, okay, I'm going to get up and I'm going to get on camera, or I'm going to start writing about this and like
Mm-hmm.
talk to a camera. And just the thought of like planning to do that helped calm me down a little bit. It brought it down a little bit. Just the thought of doing it, not even actually doing it, but thinking about talking about it and trying, because I think what happens when you write about it is you start to rationalize it and you bring yourself back down to earth. Because my therapist always tells me when I'm in the middle of a panic attack, one of the things I can do is to try and center myself and to like get back in like reality, is to focus on something you feel, something you see, something you taste, like just to ground yourself again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably what writing about it does too, because you're kind of you step away from your body a little bit and kind of look at it from a different perspective and take almost step out of it.
Definitely. Yeah.
We love
She,
typos.
she said I love book of you.
You know what? Writing book instead of both is totally understandable.
Okay, do we have any memorable swoon-worthy moments?
Um, when Darian shows up at Ash's house after Niall outs him at the club, because at first Niall shows up and it's kind of horrible, but then Darian comes and he's just like, "Hey, where'd you go, babes?"
Yeah, his babes.
Yeah,
I can just picture. I can see those people in my brain, like the orange tan, the babes.
yeah.
Like, oh, that's one thing I will say that I was a little confused by, since I am not familiar with like England at all. It was a little bit difficult for me to be like, okay, where are we? How far away is
Right.
this? Like, I know
Mhm.
nothing, you know.
Oh, like
So
Essex versus, but yeah.
yeah. And so even to like the accent, like I was listening to this book and then like I decided to like read some of it, and reading the way that he's
Mm.
speaking, I was like,
Mhm.
huh. So
I
that's
feel like it almost made it helpful to listen to the audiobook because of that,
yes.
because I did kind of like glance through and I was like, oh yeah, it's like phonetically. And
Yeah.
that's actually something that that Steph mentioned too, because she's like, normally I don't like seeing it like written like that. She's like, but
Mhm,
of course she's like, and it could be biased because I love Alexis, but it was fine in this book.
mhm. I like that moment too. I'm trying to remember if anything else. I really like what am I thinking of? I love when he walks in the fashion show and I think they have like a big kiss afterward, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
That's
Yes, I love that whole, that's just such a gesture, but it's almost an unconscious gesture on Ash's
mhm,
part because he doesn't realize that, like I said before, the reason why he's doing it is because he likes Darian so much, and it doesn't really clock to him that that's why. Of course, the
Mm-hmm.
tattoo. Him getting the tattoo is a big one.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
Ash finally going to Darian's house and Darian trying to pretend like he doesn't love him anymore, doesn't care about him anymore, but you slowly see the cracks in his
Yes.
demeanor.
Oh, and when they decide to like when Ash is like wanting to be with him with the lights on,
Mm-hmm.
and Darian's like, "Why do you hide that body? Look at that body."
I love that. That's so cute. Oh, yeah, that's true. Just set a timer for 2 minutes and bring down. Yep, that's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, yes, that was another one that I was on a walk when I heard that, and I was like, oh, I wish I had the book so I could highlight it. Yes, unfortunately. Mhm. It's powerful. Yes. Yep.
Yeah, that was very heavy, very
Mhm.
heavy. So
It packed a punch in that one. Did you read the dedication? It's
the
like
beginning
the most heartbreaking, just the dedication. It's the most heartbreaking single sentence dedication.
oh,
I know.
I want to cry.
It's to see it's not the same without you.
Oh,
I'm like, why? What does that mean? Like, who is that for? What's the story? Like, you can, because you start filling in the blanks.
yeah, tragic
I
now.
know.
I plan to continue on with this author. I know Bree does too.
Of course.
Is there only 3 books in the series? Have you read all the books in the series?
No, there are several books in this series. It's a pretty decently long series. I don't remember how many there are.
Fire's universe.
Yeah, I don't remember how many. Does it say?
Wow.
So. They're very like
no
they're very loosely related. So.
There's some in the works too.
Oh, is there?
Well, there's a book called Rough Ride and Fool's Gold that are not out yet, but when you go to the series page on Goodreads, they're at the bottom.
Interesting.
There's like novellas and then main books in the series too. Waiting for the Flood. That cover looks beautiful. All these covers are beautiful.
Yeah, they're really pretty. Oh, the dedication said to see it's not the same without you.
Oh, sorry, I'm not keeping up with comments.
Yep. So C as in the letter C. Yeah, sorry. If you don't say so, I highlighted and annotated it, but the letter C, like it's an initial.
Oh. Yeah, have you read the which ones have you read from this series? You read For Real and Pansies, you said?
Mm-hmm.
So you haven't read
super heavy.
Waiting for the Flood then?
No.
Okay. And then there's a novella called Aftermath, a novella called Invino.
Oh, those are novellas. I didn't know.
Yeah, there's book number 3.5. So after For Real. And then there's one after Glitterland called Aftermath. Oh, wait, is this after Arc? What is that?
Aftermath is in here. Aftermath is from Niall's point of view. That's the thing that's from Niall's point of view.
The 19. Okay, it says it's 19 pages long. Okay.
Yep.
That'll add another book to my Goodreads challenge if I read that.
Yeah, this is Aftermath.
Oh,
I liked, so this is the quote that I highlighted on that page, by the way. It says, Darian held my hand over the table, his silver-tipped fingers curled warm and unflinching around mine, like the promise of uncountable tomorrows. Oh, no, that's not the one with Niall. Aftermath is epilogue with Darian and Ash.
Wait, so what
Shadowland. Shadowland is the one that's from Niall's point of view, I think.
Okay, this one's the short little summary. This one says a moment of homecoming for Ash and Darian. Immediately after the events of Glitterland, Ash and Darian return to Ash's flat and explore everything that's changed and everything that's stayed the same.
Oh, I don't.
Oh yeah, and it says at the bottom, this shore is now available in the latest edition of Glitterland.
Oh, why don't I see? What is it called?
It's just Aftermath. It's Aftermath.
Oh, it's Aftermath. Okay, yeah. It's a very, very cute. And I like that. Did you had the epilogue? You read the epilogue that had the ingredients and stuff, like the
yes, yeah. It was so funny because also the audiobook, maybe I just had it on too fast, but he
Mm.
kept like when he kept talking about his nan,
Mhm.
I was listening, I was hearing man. My
Oh,
man
no.
was doing this. I was like, he has a man? What? It like happened multiple times, and I'd be like, oh, it's Nan. It's Nan. I don't know why.
That's
Just the way I heard it.
Good blind stuff. Storm and Fury.
I think that one's like YA, right?
Oh yeah. I've seen that around. I think it is YA.
I know what the cover looks like.
So do I. I can picture the cover pretty perfectly.
Do you want to mention anything else?
I do. The freaking Scrabble game is the best game ever, where you can only write words that aren't words, but you have to come up with a definition of
Yes.
the word. That is the best game ever, and I want to play it.
That sounds like so much fun. Oh my goodness.
Because the words that they were I was trying to find it. The words they were coming up with were freaking hilarious. And then like he uses it later in the book too.
That was so fun. I just really enjoyed. I feel like it was very enjoyable. I think my rating is going to be 4 stars now that we've discussed, because I really did enjoy it. But I have a feeling when I read a 5-star book, and so unfortunately, it's just, I feel like this is our first book we don't fully agree on our rating. That's okay, because I enjoyed this. I don't feel like there's anything like wrong about it. I just also feel like in the time and place, I think is maybe a little bit too heavy for me. And that's
I mean a lot of ratings is time and place, like you said.
Yes.
Like it's personal, like where you are mentally, physically, like how you've been doing, what's been happening with you. So
So Maya said that it's upper YA, still good. Oh yeah, there's so many good YA books. Yeah, for sure. I didn't know it was like own voices though. Like that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I knew that she had what is a degenerative eye condition. I knew the author had that, but I didn't realize that she wrote a book that had the rep.
Yeah, I didn't know that either, because I've read all of JLA's books that she has under the pen name J Lynn, because those are full on like romance books, and those are pretty good. But yeah, those are pretty good. But Bree and I will discuss about the next book pick, but just assume that we're going to have a live show towards the end of April for whatever book we pick. And yeah, do you want to say anything else, Bree? I'm probably forgetting something. I don't know.
Oh, as always, if you guys have suggestions for books, the kind of checklist that we have is that we would really like it to be on audio. We want it to be an adult romance, specifically romance, preferably open door. Has to have some sort of chronic illness, disability, mental health representation, neurodivergence. What else? And fairly recently released, because the point of us wanting to do a fairly newer released book is because we want to help promote it. So that's kind of the reason. And that's why we chose or like a re-release book, for example. So if like there's a book that maybe has been out already, but it's coming out on audio, that's another great thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, which is what a lot of authors are going through, because I've learned through this process how, because we've DM'd authors asking them, oh, like we really want to read your book. Is there an audio going to be out soon? And through this process, I'm learning how expensive it is to make audiobooks. And unfortunately, for those that are own voices, a few of them have like told me, like, unfortunately, like, I can't afford that. Like I have to choose medical bills over audiobooks, which is totally understandable, obviously. So it just stinks how expensive it is to make an audiobook.
And they get very little return on investment most of the time too. Like they spend a lot of money and they rarely make it back. And, and I don't blame the audiobooks for being expensive, because audiobook narrators deserve to be paid that much. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. And I kind of want to bring up the AI thing that Evie talked about, but maybe we'll save that discussion for another day. Yeah, Audible is hard on authors, expensive, and they don't pay authors well when it's published. It's true.
Tragic. Okay, well, I think we're going to end it here. Thank y'all so much for joining us for reading Glitterland. You can comment down below because I'm going to keep the live on my channel. You can comment down below what you thought of this book and what you rated it. We would love to know. But we'll see y'all in April for another live show. You can keep updated on our Instagrams to finally like figure out what. Sorry, brain fog. Second, to figure out what book we've chosen for our March April pick. So yeah, okay. Bye, y'all.
Bye.